What if I told you that the most important question about UFOs has never been, are we alone in the universe? What if that question was a distraction? Because the question we should be asking is far more unsettling. What if we were never alone on this planet to begin with? Let's get one thing straight from the start. This episode is not for the tinfoil crowd, and it's not for the professional debunkers either. Greg Pasden doesn't sit on either extreme. He does not claim proof, he does not demand belief, and he does not ask you to suspend common sense. His position is far more uncomfortable than that. He asks you to follow the data, even when it leads somewhere you didn't expect. This book does not say, here's what it is. It says, here's what it is not, and here's what the evidence still refuses to explain. That distinction matters, because belief requires faith, but investigation requires discipline. And discipline is where this story begins. When a civilian sees something strange in the sky, they get a story. When a trained military pilot sees something strange, they get data. Radar, infrared, electronic warfare logs, multi-sensor confirmation. Greg Pasden comes from that world. In that world, balloons don't jam radar, weather doesn't mirror high-G combat maneuvers, and sensor glitches don't relocate 60 miles in 1 second. These encounters weren't happening in isolation. They were happening around aircraft carrier strike groups, nuclear submarines, weapon storage areas, in controlled airspace. Pilots chased them, couldn't catch them, missiles locked, electronics failed, and then the objects left without escalation. That behavior matters, because if this were a hostile adversary, doctrine says we'd see testing, probing, escalation, but we don't. We see containment without aggression. Like someone supervising, not invading. Now here's where things get uncomfortable, because these patterns didn't start in 2004 or 2015 or even 1947. They show up throughout history wearing different names: gods, watchers, sky beings, vimanas, fire from the heavens. But strip away the mythology and something strange remains. Descriptions of objects that descend, hover, emit light, move impossibly, and then vanish. And here's the key insight. If something had millions of years to develop on this planet, if it survived mass extinctions, if it learned to retreat underground or underwater, then human civilization wouldn't be its origin story. We would be a recent development in a much older timeline. Deep time matters. Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Modern humans have existed for about 300,000. That's not seniority, that's probation. This is where Greg Pasden refuses to lock into a single explanation. He does not claim extraterrestrials from distant stars. He does not dismiss interdimensional models. He does not rule out advanced human projects. Instead, he asks a better question. Which hypothesis explains all the observed behaviors with the fewest contradictions? Transmedium travel, nuclear site monitoring, evasion without conquest, no communication, no colonization. The cryptoterrestrial hypothesis doesn't say they came from far away. It says, what if they never left? What if they were always here, just not on the surface and not interested in dominance until we started playing with weapons capable of ending the biosphere? That framing doesn't require warp drives, it requires humility. Now here's the part that makes people nervous. If this is even partly true, why hasn't it been disclosed? The answer isn't panic, it's liability. Admitting this means admitting our skies are not sovereign, our oceans are not empty, our weapons are being monitored, our superiority is an illusion. It exposes failures of control, failures of dominance, failures of narrative. And perhaps worst of all, it forces leaders to admit something humanity hates to hear: we are not the apex intelligence on this planet. For institutions built on authority and certainty, that is unacceptable. Greg Pasden doesn't ask you to believe. He asks you to notice patterns. Why do these objects appear near nuclear activity? Why do they avoid escalation? Why do they behave defensively, not offensively? Why do they vanish when confronted but return later? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, what if, from their perspective, we are the unpredictable variable? What if we are the civilization that just discovered fire, standing inside a dry forest, surrounded by something older, quieter, and very aware of what fire can do? So let's land this. Greg Pasden's position is not science fiction, and it's not comfort food. It is a disciplined refusal to accept inadequate explanations. It says this: we don't know what they are, but we know what they are not. They're not simple, they're not random, and they're not behaving like visitors. They behave like long-term residents, watching, containing, waiting. The question isn't whether disclosure will happen. The real question is whether we mature fast enough to deserve it. Because if there is another intelligence sharing this planet, then the future isn't about conquest. It's about restraint. And what you weren't told might matter more than anything we've ever been told before. Good night.